We naturally associate feathers with the aerodynamic grace of birds. However, the fossil record proves these structures existed tens of millions of years before any creature ever took to the sky. To find the origin of the feather, we have to look past the giant, scaly herbivores of the Jurassic. We must look in the shadows of the forest floor, at a group of small, agile predators known as the Maniraptorans. These turkey-sized hunters were built entirely for brutal ground combat. They couldn't fly, and they couldn't even glide. This raises a central mystery. Why would a terrestrial predator invest biological energy into growing a feather? The Maniraptoran lived a life of explosive, high-speed action. This active lifestyle required a high-performance internal engine, meaning these dinosaurs were warm-blooded or endothermic, generating their own internal heat. This animation illustrates a harsh physical reality. Smaller objects have a much higher surface area to volume ratio than large ones. Because of this, a tiny shape radiates its core heat into the environment at a much faster proportional rate than a massive one. A small, warm-blooded dinosaur faced the same thermodynamic challenge. They were essentially tiny walking cups of coffee, constantly losing their hard-won metabolic heat to the cooler surrounding air. Their ancestral reptilian scales offered zero thermal insulation. Scales function as a durable suit of armor, perfect for deflecting scrapes, but they cannot act as a blanket. These small hunters were trapped in an evolutionary dilemma. They had to burn massive amounts of energy hunting just to stay warm, only to instantly lose that heat through their uninsulated skin. Every scale and feather begins as a placode, a tiny skin cell cluster. In reptiles, this grows flat into a protective tile. But a mutation solved the energy crisis. Instead of growing flat, this cell cluster extruded upward into a hollow tube. Over time, the tip of this hollow tube began to fray, expanding into a branching, downy tuft called dinofuzz. Millions of these tufts create a microscopic net, trapping a layer of stagnant air against the body to reflect the animal's heat back inward. This structural change created a biological down jacket decades before it ever functioned as a wing. Its primary job was thermal survival. In 1996, archaeologists in Liaoning, China began unearthing ancient volcanic ash beds. This environment provided the pristine, oxygen-poor conditions required to preserve delicate soft tissues. Within these ash beds lay the fossil of Sinosauropteryx. This turkey-sized theropod provided the very first physical proof of feathers on a terrestrial predator. Look closely at the dark, carbonized film encasing the skeleton along the neck and back. This fuzzy halo is the unmistakable impression of a primitive down coat. Sinosauropteryx confirms that these predators were insulated, warm-blooded hunters. This evidence ended the long-standing image of the dinosaur as a sluggish, scaly reptile. With a functioning coat, these predators spent less energy simply maintaining their core temperature. This newfound metabolic efficiency allowed calories once wasted on basic survival to be channeled into more complex traits. Once a structure like the feather exists for a practical reason, it can be repurposed. For the dinosaurs, that meant using their insulated skin for visual communication. To determine the exact color of these ancient feathers, scientists use scanning electron microscopes to locate melanosomes, microscopic pigment capsules found inside the fossilized structures. Because these capsules have distinct physical shapes depending on the color they produce, researchers can map out vivid blacks, whites, and reddish browns on long-extinct species. Later, feathered dinosaurs utilized these colors on expanded wing-like structures. They grew broad, symmetrical feathers on their limbs, using them as massive display boards to attract mates and intimidate rivals. The history of the feather follows an ironic path. It started as a humble accidental coat to prevent a small predator from freezing to death, yet it provided the surface area needed for color, and eventually the aerodynamic hardware required to take flight.